Here we go. This is it, episode 550.
Wow.
No
right
Laugh Track Podcast,
nose.
Acme Comedy Company, Minneapolis, Minnesota. I am Justin Severson, who hosts each and every week. And this week, super excited to talk to a first-time guest, Beth Stelling.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So let's go. My memory is that you have worked Acme before this week. How many times?
Really, just once.
Just once. You had one other week.
Yeah, one other week. And then when I came back, I'm trying to think the order of events, but I think I did 10,000 Laughs Festival with Bob Edwards. I think I did the Varsity at a one-nighter.
Oh, just a special recording.
And a special recording. Yeah. That was where I filmed my HBO Max special called Girl Daddy here in Minneapolis, which was such a great experience. One of the guys that came to the show last night, right when he walked up, I recognized him right away because he's in the front row of my special. And when you're editing, you see everybody. He's also very, very tall, and he has the same hair. He's got a man bun, so he's easier to pick out.
Oh, still a man bun.
Yeah,
several years later.
He's rocking it.
Look at that. Isn't that interesting when you start recognizing your fans?
Yeah, I know. It is kind of nice. It's nice.
Very cool. Very cool.
I guess I got some repeat customers.
Yeah, that's awesome. Why did you choose the Varsity Theater back then?
I wanted to do Minneapolis. I love this place for comedy. There's cities that feel good for comedy in my mind and my experience, and so I narrowed it down that way. Like where would I want to do it? My favorite comedy cities, and then it came down to time frame and who was available and when and all. So as I whittled down the details, the Varsity had an opening and at the time I wanted, and thank goodness because the pandemic hit pretty much that weekend.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. It seems like the timeline. That stuff.
I mean, we were like, special filmed, let's go to Mall of America, and then we're like, actually, there's a pandemic. It's like hanging out in the ball pit of a kid's like McDonald's after a hand, foot, and mouth statement has been released. You're like, I was just in the most toxic place possibly in America. An indoor mall populated by thousands of people. Sure, tell me there's a pandemic.
Wait, I was petting the animals, and now you're telling me I could have got rabies? What?
Exactly.
No. I have to tell you. So I rewatched Girl Daddy just in the last week in anticipation of talking to you. And I know I rewatched it because when I went on Max, it was like, rewatch? ?
Hey,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, well, you're very welcome. So I pay for the version of Max that has the commercials.
Same.
So awkward when it's in the middle of a fucking comedy special.
I know. What was the commercial?
So you're talking about, this is like the first third of the podcast, and you're it's masturbation talk.
Uh-huh.
And then it's something, I think...
Classic comedy topic.
Yeah, and then I think I wrote down your line. It was something like, all right, get off me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then flex cock.
Flex cock?
Flex cock, the caulking,
to...
I
I feel like somebody in the ad department was like, I'm clever.
I mean, I'd like to think it's not an accident. Yeah. I'd like to think it's not. It really caught me off guard. Also, I want to tell you that I was listening to this, watching and listening. I was in a waiting room somewhere, and when things were like getting kind of spicy, I kept like pulling my earbud out, like checking, like, am I only hearing this here? Because there's two women over here that I don't know that work here, and I don't want them to hear what I'm listening to. If they asked, I would tell them.
Yeah.
It's Beth Stelling. You should check this out if you don't know her. But the content, I would have turned bright red. I absolutely would have turned bright red. So
it's interesting you bring that up because it's like, I think early days for me with stand-up, I was very cognizant of wanting to sort of like, about material content, cussing, like a lot of judgments and restrictions I placed on myself in order to sort of, my goal at the time when I started was like, I don't want to be the stereotype.
Sure.
And then with that special, when leading up to it, I had to really, after my half hour on Netflix came out, which, it's not that I don't have anything blue in there, but I was rewriting and starting to write new material, and I really had to let go of a lot of those restrictions I put on myself. I was like, I can write about anything and make it funny. So don't restrict yourself based upon stereotypes of comics and particularly female comics. I was like, however I'm going to talk about it, it's going to be my perspective, and whoever is into my stuff will like it, as opposed to like, oh, it's another female comic talking about sex, which of course I get those comments from typically older white men on Facebook.
Sure.
And I have to reply to them, and every single one I do. And I just say, this is a joke about consent. You're hearing like, another female talking about sex. I'm like, this is a consent joke. Please look into it. But I really did, judge myself at first, because it's like I didn't want to be. It's just like when I started, I didn't want to be somebody going on stage and just being sort of like an exhibitionist, like just saying things for shock. I really wanted to be clever and smart about it, and so at that point, I was like, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about my experience. I want to talk about things that are frustrating to me, and that involves some of these topics.
Yeah. So I talked to a former guest on this podcast recently, and he is no longer doing comedy.
Okay.
And I asked him why, and he said
podcast.
Huh?
The podcast.
I said, why did you? Yeah.
He's like, if I could pinpoint the moment, it was you, Justin, asking me all these questions.
I know.
No, I'm just kidding.
That's the whole point of this is my guest needs to reevaluate as soon as possible. Yeah. Are you happy you're here? Honestly.
So he came on.
No, this was just a private conversation that we had recently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, the quitting comedy was just a private conversation. I'm going to share with you what he said about that, and that is that he's like, I just don't feel like it's genuine enough anymore.
Yeah.
And
he means the state of the union of our comedy world.
Yeah.
Look, I genuinely thought I didn't want to be. I didn't make any sort of grand announcement during the pandemonium and essentially shortly after the racial reckoning, which I'm sure obviously Minneapolis is very familiar with around that time. Oh. But I was very disillusioned with my compatriots, and I felt annoyed, and I felt like, can't we all just shut up for a second and sit down? And why is everyone trying to make a joke about some of these very painful things for other people? And why are you buying a green screen, and can't we all just take a nap? I felt like it really was pencils down. Yeah. And then to see everybody like really just rush to make content during that time, it bothered me, because I was like, I'm like the kid at nap time that's like, what, can you shut up? We're sleeping. Yeah.
Let's take advantage of this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I felt like, let's do that. So it's not the same thing as your friend had mentioned, but it reminded me of that, because it just felt like I was annoyed with the state of the union of my business, where I was just sort of like, that's not the right wording, but you get what I mean.
Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
annoyed with my counterparts. Yeah. I just felt disillusioned with it, and I thought we were better people. And come
on now.
Yeah, I shouldn't have. But I wanted to quit, because I really felt. And I didn't want to be dramatic about it, because I'd seen that happen in my Chicago days, my early days, which is where I started. I was there for my first 4 years of comedy before moving to LA. Mm-hmm. And, we had a couple guys along the way be like, I'm quitting comedy. The big announcement on Facebook, and everyone's like, you don't need to do that. No one would have known you were gone. So, yeah, I told a couple friends, like, I really think I got to stop. Really? There's like all of it's very strange. I've had this my whole comedy career. The genuine quality of it comes in when early days I was so worried about being authentic and genuine and present with people. So I didn't want to be the comic that was like, if I made somebody laugh in conversation, let me write that down. That felt really not just icky or whatever to me. It felt wrong and rude, and I didn't like that about myself, and I didn't do it.
I got the vibe that was part of his problem. Like, everything's got to be a freaking...
Yeah. And I then, you'll hear this. I remember talking to some early days before I ever really had an agent or a manager, but she said something along the lines of, like, you will lose relationships. You'll make sacrifices. Like, you'll make choices in your life for comedy over personal reasons, and you have to be okay with that. And that is true. Yeah. My life is totally different because I chose to do comedy. And it was a battle for a while there, which felt like, because I'm from Ohio and went to college in Ohio, I had an Ohio boyfriend when I moved to LA. And it felt like a departure for sure, which was like, I am choosing kind of this entertainment industry but I don't consider myself to be, I was never like some sort of fame hungry person. And I actually do, the way I've said that, there is a negative connotation I have with it.
Interesting.
But I also have learned over the years of writing for television and watching, again, other comics and writers pitch themselves constantly. I could do that. I'd be good for that. And that still bothers me, which is a sign that, truthfully, I should probably take a page out of their book. And there's balance in everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I see where that person's coming from. Being in LA, people can leave there and say, everybody's all fake and this or that. And my early take on that was like, what a nice problem to have, that everybody's so kind,
Right?
And you can be, and as a human, you should be able to pick up on who is genuine and who isn't. And then you make your decision on who you'd like to be around.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people in comedy I keep an arm's length. I'm friendly, but not super familiar, and I'm not giving my time and energy to that person.
Yeah, there you go.
But it is tough because even as recently as starting this tour again, after I had my latest special was the Netflix special, If You Didn't Want Me Then, which came out in October.
Yes.
So then I come back on tour. I need a new hour is what I'm feeling.
Yes.
And I have a lot of new, but I'm still, it's the teetering. It's like, I'm going to do as much new as I can, but have to play some of these
I heard
hits.
it's mostly new.
Yeah, no, now it's all new. Now
Yeah.
it's nothing from the special. But you have that time period. And as I was working on it, even in this tour, I think it was probably November, it's not like I'm a martyr and, it's so painful. But because I am so me, and I become a closer version of me as I have grown as a comic in the last 17 years, it is taxing. I am being authentic and vulnerable. I am sharing my real self.
You do so well.
Thank you.
So well.
And it can be hard. I am a sensitive person. Thankfully, I have now. The tides have turned. You feel that turn. Early days of headlining, there's people who don't know who you are, and they're not going to like sitting there with you for 45 minutes, know? And I had struggled to get 45 minutes, and I'm like 44, 59, good night, because I don't want to have the rumor about me being another female comic that can't do 45. So it's like, and you're getting paid less, so you have less power. You can't make choices and stand up for yourself. So anyway, as I've grown, and now people are actually coming to see me, which is nice.
Yeah.
So they know what they're going to get, and I feel safe. And it sounds so cheesy, but I used to have to like armor up. I used to have to be like, I have to make you laugh, and this is sort of like a battle, which I still get tastes of when I'm like in LA at the Comedy Store, and dudes in the front row are like, now's my time to either check my phone or whatever it is, and I feel like I have to prove myself, which isn't a good feeling. So obviously I always want to get in where I fit in. But like as I'm looking out and I'm trying to be genuine, there's like I'm a theater kid, or I'm not a theater kid classically, but I was a theater major, and I had a moment where I was obsessed with Anton Chekhov, and he has this quote that's like, I'm almost positive, I don't want to attribute it wrong to him, but it's like, I think he said, "You are not your art," or something like this. No, he said everything should be as in real life, which is what I really latched onto when it came to art and what I wanted to put out.
Yeah.
And then I think it was one of our professors who used to say, "Remember, you're not your art." And I've said this many times to people where we've had this conversation, which is like, I'm not my art, but it's really hard to tell us apart.
I mean, seeing you, watching your stuff, hearing your stuff, you do leave with like, oh, I feel like I know her.
Yeah, and you do technically, right? But then again, there is that strange fourth wall, which is like, I wouldn't be like, you're a weirdo if you came up to me and said like, how's your mom's dog Frank, or how's your mom Diane?
Yeah.
Like I would get that. But there is of course boundaries and things like that sometimes get muddy. I just think I remember it was a late night show, which sometimes can be tough on the road at a club. And it was like a lot of young folks, and sometimes it feels like they're looking for what they're used to seeing online, which was like, crowd work, I'm going to make fun of you, and that's just not my gig. Correct. Like, I can rise to the occasion, I can improvise, I can deal with someone who's unruly if I need to, but I've prepared an hour of comedy for you to enjoy, so that's my job.
Yeah.
And I don't need to ask you a question to fill time. And when I was on stage performing my hour, and sometimes you have to pivot if they're not, whatever, it's late. If a Friday late, people worked and they're hammered, fun. That's a fun time for me. But I was in Austin, and it's like, it was in the state of building this material. And again, this isn't like my most divulgent, so sensitive to me hour, but it's still personal. And I just felt like I was giving them something, and they're like the kid, which I'm sure you can relate at Christmas, where you've picked something out, or holiday or whatever. And they're like, what else? And you're like, I spent hours picking that out for you and wrapping it, and you're asking me what's next. So I actually, at that point I remember this show, I was like, guys, I'm giving you what I can, and I need some of you to meet me in the middle. Otherwise, we have to end this soon. And then I did. I just left at 45, which is my contractually obligated amount of time. But I was like, I can't stay here longer because it's actually hurting my feelings.
Oh my goodness! How did they Did there just no reaction?
No, they were like, "You're right," and yeah, we do want to go home and let's get out of here.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, like I like to have that conversation because sometimes. And this is a new one that's never happened to me before in Arlington. Well, I should answer your questions. These are just making me think of times that I haven't.
I feel like I did a great job. If it's
okay.
Getting all the stuff out of you.
Well,
so keep
I was
going.
just saying in Arlington now, on this tour also. This is an interesting story. I actually kicked out a friend.
What?
Yeah, it was like it's a friend of a friend, but I had seen them. They had too much to drink, and I should have taken a couple clues before they texted me about my opener, and was like, it was a little like, who is this guy? Like that's it.
During the set.
During his set.
Oh
yeah.
No!
Yeah, it was
bad
texting.
start. Ooh,
yeah.
bad start.
So she's sort of like, who is this? And I'm verbalizing texts that are clearly written, but that's how I read them. And then when I'm on stage, there's some yelling happening, and I'm like, "What is going on?" And then I was like, I usually, I give warning. I ignore as much as I can, but until you're like affecting other people's time who have paid for a ticket, maybe got a babysitter, and are having to get 2 drinks, like you're encroaching upon other people's hard-earned money.
Yeah.
So I was like, "You gotta go." And then I texted afterwards. I was like, "If you want to meet up, I'll meet you in the lobby." Nothing. And that's when it clicked. I was like, I totally kicked out somebody I know. And it was later confirmed. I mean, there's more details and juiciness to the story, but essentially that. And then I think there was probably one other thing I wanted to tell you there.
I
bet forgot.
you have no regrets in that.
No. Yeah, she got to go.
Yeah.
And in fact, our other friend who was with her was like, thank you. Because I didn't want to be with somebody yelling. And I wanted to get home too, and she was blotto, so it was like, yeah, you did the right thing by kicking that person out.
Yeah.
I think I had some other thought about that set, but that was the first time I've done an encore, which I've never done before.
What made that happen?
Well, because I'm the comic who's like, that's why I feel weird about going so long last night. I did like an hour 8. I don't love it when, like the old stories that I would get from sometimes the managers of clubs in my day, just in my time on the road, which is like, oh, fill in the blank did 2 hours last weekend.
Sure.
And it's like, get a life, go to therapy, go home to your family. Clearly there's an issue. But so that would always be, that's not like a feather in your cap. Like I kept people hostage for 3 hours at 10 p.m. on a Friday. You know what I mean? Like, but then again, of course, these people sit there. But I'm like, and so some people I'm sure are reveling in it. And whoa, I can't believe this is happening. This guy's talking for 3 hours and want to be there. So I get that. Then there's other people who are like, I feel bad leaving, but I'd like to sleep, And so I'm of the ilk that's like, I should shut the fuck up. I'm wasting everybody's time. I'm like, let me get this hour out so you get more bang for your buck and let's get out of here. As opposed to being, indulgent. So either way, on that Arlington show, I felt like, okay, I did 45, but then sometimes I feel like I haven't given enough of a show if I don't do a full hour.
Okay.
It's a weird, 45 is fine. It's like, I don't know, but the hour, there is a prestige to it, and I can do it.
Sure.
And so I felt bad because I was getting vibes, and sometimes I read it wrong. You've seen the comic like blow up on somebody, and someone's just ordering a drink. Like you never want to be that person.
Right.
So I could have totally caught the wrong vibe. I've watched and corrected my friends over the years who are like, "Well, you guys hated that one," and in the back of their mind, I'll go, "They laughed.
Right.
They liked it. Get out of your head."
Oh yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah, a lot. So I could have read this wrong, and this is recent, but I let them go. I dismissed everyone, and then I was like, "Good night, good night." And then I was like, you know what? And again, that weekend was crazy. I think my host fell asleep. So I was like, you know what? I actually have 10 more minutes if you guys do want to hear it. And people were filing out. I was like, if you want to hear it, just come to the front of the stage. So it was like, I don't want to exaggerate, and I'm at maybe 15, 20 people gathered around me, and I sat at the edge of the stage, and I just did the last 10
How
minutes.
fun!
So it was pretty fun.
Oh, yeah.
But like I just feel it's like I knew those people wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And that made it okay for
I get
me
that.
to like do it. You know?
How dramatic was it? Was there a curtain that closed and then they had to open it back up? That would have been amazing.
No curtain. I actually think I did go off stage. It's like I'm having
clapping
trouble
for me.
remembering.
I gotta go back.
Yeah, no, they weren't clapping or anything like that. I did go off because I remember either the host was asleep and then I came out and I go, hey, I was like, is the mic still on? I remember doing that, like, hello.
Oh, sure.
Hello, like that. And then people start turning around. And I was like, I'll do the one more bit because I polled them.
Yeah.
And some people clapped and some people didn't, which is why I dismissed them. And then I said, if you clapped, come on back. And then I did a little thing for all of them. Yeah.
Love it.
Anyway.
Love it.
I went on a lot of tangents.
No,
there.
that's fine. That is absolutely fine. I want to talk more about the special that you have on Netflix.
Okay.
Very good stuff.
Thank
very,
you.
very funny. That's been around for what, about half a year now?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. Do you still get numbers of how many people are watching that? Does Netflix still go?
Oh, they've stopped calling. Yeah, I think the last numbers I got were basically like, I forget. It was something like, I don't want to exaggerate. I don't remember. So I'm just not going to say the number.
No, that's fine.
Because it was some in the hundreds of thousands of rewatch hours, something like that.
Interesting.
So it was, you have this many rewatch hours. So it means the people who liked it watch it again and again. But obviously it wasn't like some sort of blow up viral sensation. But they also don't promote it, and that's in your contract. So they won't be promoting it for you. So the fact that I got into the top 10 at all was, I should be very proud of myself.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not like it lingered there for more than a day.
Well, you should be proud of it, though, obviously.
Thank you.
It's very good.
Thank you.
It's very, very good.
And that I do want to be proud of all my work. Like, I really do put myself into it. I care. And that's when I think sometimes we have entered, speaking of, your friend who had mentioned that, a realm where it's like, I get when I see an hour that's like meh or basically a podcast of theirs. And I'm just sort of like, okay, we spent time with you. If your fans are okay, like it's essentially like your fans love you on your podcast and they get you every week. So to take a huge paycheck to do your podcast again, but like a little more professional and standing up, I mean, who's going to fault you for taking that money from Netflix if they gave it to you?
For sure.
So I'm like, I get it from a business standpoint. And also speaking of like doing a full hour, I mean, I don't know if you looked at some of the time codes, but that's not even a thing anymore. Like the classic comics are doing an hour still. They're releasing a hour special that they worked hard on.
Right.
That is special. And then there's some that are 35, 40, 43. And I'm like, when I started seeing that, I was like, damn, you're saying I could have saved that 15-minute story at the end for my next one and got paid the same amount?
Right.
Because that blows.
There's some math. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
knowing.
interesting to see. It gives you a new perspective on how much you should be putting out and what you're holding back on. But yeah, things are changing, and I definitely think I'm not getting up off the couch. I'm just sort of like, I'm willfully maybe getting left behind. Just in the sense that like, I would like to just keep, I'm the person who, like, it used to bother me when I had a boyfriend at the bagel shop I worked at. And when he would put on like, I'm trying to think of a band that will make you laugh right now. Pavement, he's like, we press play on this and we listen to the full album while we're working. Like that's his, and I'd be like, okay, we're going to listen to the full straight album. That's how it was meant to be consumed. I'm over here like trying to do a mix of pop, and let it bounce around. But that's how I am now. He used to bother me. He was like, real photos over Instagram, and I'm like, I roll. And now I'm like, an hour special, not clips that I've edited. And what's it like to see me live? Well, because you've seen me put together, like, what you're going to get with me. And it's not even like I want to be a hater of TikTok people, because I've laughed. It's not that I'm saying they're not funny.
Sure.
But it is a totally different muscle and sort of event, I guess, in the Olympic events of stand-up comedy. it's a different event.
That your mom is a big fan of.
Yeah, exactly. My mom likes long form. She likes the floor exercise.
Did anything go wrong or almost go wrong with the recording of the special? I'd like to hear
I
those
forgot
stories.
a couple tags that haunt me. I only did it. I did one show, one take.
I saw that.
So I have a couple tags I missed out on, and they haunt me.
Okay.
Because a pickup wouldn't have been authentic.
Okay.
So
there you go.
Yeah, we could have, and I redid my entrance once, and I did it the exact same way I did it the first time.
Funny.
Equally upsetting for me to watch both times. I was like, "What's up, Dayton?" It's like, "What do you say? Why would you say it like that? And when have you ever said it like that?" Anyway, let me run it back one more time. So that was annoying. But yeah, thankfully nothing like terribly wrong.
That's good.
I mean, I was dating the wrong person at the time and they were backstage.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I think they left actually during the taping to go get something, which makes me laugh.
A date?
Yeah, exactly. Another woman. Yeah, thankfully. Oh, well, so Jeff Tate, great comic, was the opener for the special. And he had to basically like shut down a heckler who my sister brought. So I keep on having these close hecklers.
What the heck?
People who love me keep trying to sabotage me.
No kidding.
Classic
They
experience.
need to be coached. They need some coaching before they enter.
Jeff definitely squashed that, which was good.
Nice. That's good.
But yeah, she was off the rails and hammered. I was having, there was a lot of personal turmoil. So did anything go wrong? Yes, all internal.
Okay.
Yeah. And rough stuff. It was just a lot. I almost didn't release it. I almost literally was like, I'll eat this money because I hate it so much. It's a time capsule of a bad time in my life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And again, it's not like I have compassion for that person I was dating. They were really struggling with alcohol and drugs and cheating on me. And so it's like, I love how I have to have like compassion for somebody who ruined my life. But, so I'm just sort of like, they didn't ruin my freaking life. It was just like, it was unfortunate that we are, when two of the wrong people get together, you're scratching some sort of itch that you're both participating in.
Absolutely.
And so I was in that. I shouldn't have been in that anymore. My sister, we were sort of estranged from a bit, which is, you don't think that that's really going to happen in your 30s. Like, all this time we've been buds, why now?
Right.
I mean, and the answer is a man. We all sort of have, my oldest sister did a good job of overcorrecting, but we have a bit of an issue with passed down from our mom of perhaps a broken picker of like not picking the greatest men.
Sure.
And again,
broken picker.
Yeah, my dad, it's like, you got to have love for him, but we wouldn't be here without him. But there's
your material about your dad is, oh my God, that's some of the best stuff
Thank
ever.
you.
Has anyone seriously has someone ever approached you to like do some like sort of series with him or?
Yeah, I've definitely had people interested in doing more of like a docu series on him, and it should be before because he's still out there, like he's still out there in a morph suit with my special. Actually, he has a poster for my special that he's been promoting up on a ladder.
I didn't know. By the way, because of you, I know they're called morph suits now. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he loves a morph suit.
Yeah,
we were talking the other day. I have a new podcast with Mo Welch called Sweethearts.
Yeah, it's all about anal sex. I listened.
I'm so sorry. It's not about that. That episode went off the rails.
Baloney. That's
all.
all.
Don't listen to episode 6. Don't listen to episode 6 if you want to remain pure. But we usually try a candy or whatever.
Yeah, I know.
And he loves, so it's technically it's about being Midwestern sweetie. It's just one episode went off the rails. But he's definitely, both my parents have sweet tooths, but he loves, we were talking about nerd clusters. Nerd cluster, do you love them?
Yes.
They're crack.
Oh my God.
We have some at the Airbnb right now. I know.
So good.
But he's just a man of like funny little sayings and words. And I was talking about nerd clusters. He had some story about accidentally shitting his pants, and I forget what it was. He was like, "Oh, sure, I did the other day." I was like, "Okay, thanks for the info."
In character?
Yeah. I know. I don't think. Thank God he was in a morph suit.
Barney the pooper.
Ruined. But he was like, "Oh, I love those nerd clusters." He calls it milk of the gods, ambrosia. He kept saying that. And I was just sort of like, okay. But it is.
When those are around the house, I see the bag and I'm like, is she gonna know? My wife buys them and I'm like, is she gonna know if I just take a handful?
I mean, a serving is one bag.
Yes.
They're so good.
They're so good.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Nerds are back.
I completely agree. Oh my God, we just did a half hour.
I wouldn't shut up, so that makes sense.
I'm gonna ask about one more thing because
Yeah.
I mean there's a million things, but you'll come back
Yeah.
and we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah.
Starsoncall.com if you want to look up her father is
Yes.
amazing, by the way. But field hockey.
Yeah.
Tell me about you play field hockey.
Yes, I play field hockey. I tried out for the first time last year for the U.S. Women's Masters team, which it's different age groups, but you have to minimum age is 35, so it's meant for older players. But I tried out for the team, made it, so I got to represent the U.S. in the Pan Am Continental Cup in Buenos Aires last December.
In Argentina?
Yes.
See?
Exactly.
Wow.
And we got silver too, Argentina, on their home turf. And I just tried out for the World Cup team again in May. I did my Netflix as a Joke Fest on Friday, May 3rd, and then I took a red eye, landed in Richmond, tried out on Saturday and Sunday. And they just announced the squad, so I did make the squad.
Congrats.
Thank you. And now we're just trying to figure out like who has been announced on the squads can actually make it, because it's in Cape Town this year, South Africa.
Wow.
So that'll be in October.
Do you have it open right now?
I left it open,
You
on
did.
my touring schedule. Which that's the tough part is, do I want to? Because if you don't make something and people are kind of like thinking about it, or not saying people are keeping track of my field hockey career, but I said I'm going to try out again.
Yeah.
And so I left it open, and that was a bit of a risk.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm planning on going.
How did you get into this?
Well, I started in Ohio in third grade. They started us in third grade on any sport you would choose, but it was more like, the options were like soccer, field hockey, which is great that they had that.
Yeah.
And I remember we started on like the gym floor, hardwood floor, because we also played what's it called? Just regular, not ice
Floor
hockey,
hockey.
but floor hockey. Thank you.
Yeah.
With a puck, and so we played that during gym too. But I just remember in third grade when we did field hockey in gym class as just to learn about it, it was the huge, I can't think of the brand of the gray trash can on wheels.
Okay.
But that's what, had all the gym equipment in it. And
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
all the field hockey sticks, handled down with
Mm-hmm.
all the little things coming out. And you'd go over and try to pick out your stick.
Yeah.
But that's when I first fell in love with it, was gym, third grade. And then you could play it in what was called our community center league.
Sure.
And I played that. So did my sisters. And then come junior high is when we started playing out on grass in 7th grade. So I played all through high school. I don't want to say got an offer. I think I was like allowed to play at Ohio Wesleyan on their team. I don't know if I really am. My memory is bad. I think maybe they gave me a small scholarship or something. But it was Division III, and I knew I didn't want to really go to Ohio Wesleyan University just for other things.
Sure.
So, and I chose Miami University in Ohio, which is D1. And I knew, my team went to state that year. Like, we had a good team, and I was a solid player. But I was all Ohio. I should give myself credit. I was a good player.
Wow.
But I just knew that the transition would be difficult for me. Because I didn't love running. I didn't love conditioning. Like, it was like a burden. So I didn't feel like a true D1 player. And I also feel like I still would have had to try out. And I wanted to do theater. And that's at night. And this is in the morning. So
Sure.
speaking of sacrifices for entertainment.
See, there you
Yeah.
go.
I played club.
I did a search of women's over 35. Like, I wanted to see the list of the roster, and I was like,
Yeah.
there she is.
Yeah.
Elizabeth.
I know. Yes, my full name.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, I like to create a little barrier there. So people might not be able to find me. But yeah.
So cool. So
Thank
cool that
you.
you do that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That is really cool.
I made such good friends, so it's been fun experiencing. Like, I always like having separate friends out of comedy too.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is not be able to relate to anybody other than people who are comics or in the entertainment biz. I still like knowing what is happening in my friends' lives, home in Ohio, and other women who are just in different fields, like,
For sure.
architects and teachers and full-time moms. And so it's just nice to be able to be around women who do other things.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, I hope you're able to do that.
Yeah.
Keep following that on social media.
Yes.
So finally, so there's the one special on Max that's
Yes,
still there.
that's still there.
There's another one on Netflix.
There's 2 on there. The half hour.
Oh, that's right. The stand-ups.
The stand-ups,
Yes,
yeah. And
yes.
then this last one, If You Didn't Want Me Then.
And then the current podcast.
Sweethearts.
With your friend Mo.
Yep. And I'm trying to think I wrote on Rick and Morty season 8. That should be coming out here eventually soon. I think.
I'm going to fly home and tell my oldest daughter about that to raise my cool level. Thank you for reminding of that.
Of course.
I read that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. And Strange Planet on Apple TV, I wrote on that as well, and I do a little voice. It's a fun cartoon.
Awesome.
Yeah, the creator of it is also from Dayton, Ohio.
Dayton?
Dayton. What's up, Dayton? Shut up.
All right. Thank you so much.
Of course.
And if we had more time, we would talk all about raccoons.
Yeah, next time.